Welcome everybody to our Data Heroes panel. We're very excited to have a special group with us today on our panel. It's definitely a team of all-stars, and we'll start off by introducing Sarah Kopes. She's the Senior Director of Marketing Operations at Sendoso. We've got Rachel Sadaka, Senior Marketing Manager of Demand Generation at Welcome. We've got Kelly Justice, Senior Manager, Demand Generation at Outreach, and Michelle Vu, Senior Director of Sales, Commercial at G2 Crowd. So today we want to start off by saying thank you all for being here. And we're going to jump right into our first question. And the first question is, how do you develop your ICP when you want to start maybe a new ABM campaign? Overall target your accounts better? And I guess the first person we're going to open this question up to is Kelly.
All right, well, thanks so much for having us. That's a great question. I think the first thing that comes to mind for me and from the outreach approach too is just kind of setting the foundation using propensity models. So where have you historically won in the past? Where have you been successful? What are the drivers of that? So we've been developing a propensity model where it takes in, key components as industry, revenue, just kind of those key fields to drive kind of the account data too. So I think for me, just to kind of kick things off, I would just say setting the foundation for propensity modeling and account scoring. What is your addressable market, and how likely are those to convert to really develop your ICP?
Propensity models are very important in this process. And Rachel, I think you have a unique take yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Welcome is a pretty new company. We've been around for about a year now, and that's why it's been so critical for us to really hone in on our ICP and continue to refine it. One of the ways that we're currently testing that, is through all of our marketing channels. So outbound email, paid channels, really trying to fine tune that there. And then, what we've also seen is on a great events platform like Welcome, there's a number of use cases for this product, right? We're doing a go-to-market event right now. Plenty of people use it for that, but we are also starting to see, different uses internally. So people are using it to engage their workforce, to host all hands, and really using those use cases as well to leverage understanding of different types of buyer intent.
Very nice. So you're going channel to channel and creating ICPs. That's very unique. Sarah, how about you?
Yeah, I think I would ditto everything that Kelly and Rachel said. We actually also did start using Welcome for all hands, and we love it. It's so much more engaging than what we were doing before. So definitely a good use case. At Sendoso, we're lucky to where we've had a couple of years of data on our belt, especially in terms of who is buying from us. So our first iteration of ICP and segmentation was really based on the who will buy from us. And now we've gone a level deeper, and now we focus on who's actually renewing. And in addition to that, who is sending with us. So we look at our top senders and try to find lookalike companies so that we can build out our ICP based on that.
Yeah, I mean, as SaaS companies, we know that renewals are kind of the king of valuation or queen of valuation. And, I think that's a great strategy. Seeing a lot more companies using, customer success usage data in the model, because users are typically renewing customers, especially the heavy users. So I really like that insight. Michelle, how about you?
Yeah, so on my side, I'm more thinking about how to reinforce the ICP in sales. So I just use data. After every quarter, I go in and I pull a report from our CRM, and we already have, we turn our ICP into tiers for our sales team. And so I report back, these are the closed won deals you got. And without fail, about 80% of our closed new logos are in that tier 1. And so that's one of the things that advice of just showing the data and showing that it does work, it'll go a long way.
Yeah, I think that's super important. A lot of ICP generation is created in marketing, and getting sales to adopt it can be pretty challenging. But if you can show a team of salespeople that 80% of your tier 1 deals were in a segment that you're going to try to replicate, I think it makes it a lot easier for them to take it seriously. So I'm glad that we have both personas on this call to kind of figure out how sales and marketing can align on these ICPs. We're going to jump to the next question. Do any of you use intent? What is intent, and how do you use intent? And I think, Michelle, we're going to start with you.
Yeah, I think it'll be great to put the lay of the land of what intent is. And so in its simplest form, it's understanding potential customers with intent to buy without raising their hand. So you're finding them in the research phase of the buyer's journey. I'd say the main selling point is, if any intent, is speed to sale and increased conversion rates. Even if you have the shortest sales cycle, you're going to have your potential new customers research you ahead of time, no matter what, without fail. And there are two different types of intent. So there's first party and third party. First party is your own intent on your website, landing pages, digital properties. It's the easiest way to dip your toes into intent. But I will say it's hard to warrant high level of results because it's a different type of signal. If you look at a download of a white paper on your website versus that same company did a comparison against you and a competitor on the internet, that might be a stronger signal. So that's where layering of intent comes into play. And I think, Kelly, I know you have some more intel on that. But that leads me to the second part, which is third party. So there are two types of third-party intent. The first type is actually first party from another company, like publishing networks or a review site like G2, because that is their first-party data from their website or their marketplace that you're actually able to leverage. And then other accessible third-party vendors are going to be internet-wide, so signals that are getting pulled on what these companies are searching for. And so for us, I'll speak to sales. We do use our own intent. So we had it set up in a few ways. We push signals into our CRM, and that then will be on the account level, tag the account owner, BDR, CSM, and then we have different plays based on the type of signals. And then we also push it into our instant messaging system so that as the signal comes in live, those account owners and BDRs see it happening, and we decide which signals that we push. Because the last thing you want to do is kind of muddy the waters and have tons of different signals come in. You want to really decide where are the strong signals. And then the only other thing I'll say with intent is, in general, it's not a one touch get a meeting type strategy. It is going to take longer cadences. I mean, think about how hard it is sometimes to get responses from somebody that actually submitted a lead form, let alone somebody that hasn't raised their hand.
Yeah, absolutely. I think breaking it into those multiple tiers it makes it a lot more digestible. And Kelly, you have a unique way of layering multiple intent providers for sales and marketing use cases. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think Michelle brought up a good point of it's all about how you're serving it up through all of your systems. You can have one piece of intent data. You can just have first party. You can have first and third party. But it's all about how are you sharing it throughout your entire go-to-market team, your sales, your marketing team. So we actually leverage, from a third-party perspective, we leverage 3 different types of intent data. And I think that's important because they're actually all at different stages of the funnel. So we have Bombora intent data, we have G2, and we have Terminus, which is more of first-party intent data as well. So we're layering all 3 of those on there. And again, they go from top of funnel to in a buying stage as well, from my perspective. But we use those all throughout, not only just sales. So the number one use case is the prioritization of accounts through the sales organization. So we are pushing all 3 of those data sets automatically into our CRM. We're mapping it to outreach as well. All right there. We can automate a lot of alerts as well. But one important thing is we've pulled that also within our marketing program. So whether they're searching on certain topics, they're researching a certain category on G2, we've really honed in on what does that data mean and how can we leverage it in our paid social programs or paid search, and really just kind of prioritize both on the marketing and the sales side and really make sure we're going after the same people at the right time.
So it sounds like you're making your multi-channel campaigns not only more effective, but probably maybe not spending less money, because maybe you pump it in when you know that a company's in market, but you don't have to like spray and pray a whole series of accounts to just get in front of people that are in market. That's very, very cool. Rachel, you are using first party intent in a pretty unique way. Can you tell us a little bit about how you use your first party intent?
Yeah, I think as our team continues to grow, we'll definitely be looking at how we can leverage third-party intent more. But right now, building out our first level of our lead scoring program, one of the things we're really interested in is how our events drive engagement and demand. And what we're seeing is, if somebody is willing to sign up for and attend a hour-long, 30-minute, 45-minute event, they're definitely more engaged than your average lead. And so we're looking at what is the effect that event attendance, registration, and our follow-up around those types of things has on our time to request demos and follow up with our sales team. So what we're really noticing is those high intent touches, especially sitting through those panels and ones similar to the one we're on right now, are really good indicators of intent to buy and learn more about Welcome.
Well, we'd love to hear more about your findings, because I know a lot of the people listening today are doing digital events, but they're also thinking about getting back into live events. And this is one of the most expensive kind of channels that you can market through, because events are never free mostly, and people even at the board or investment level are always wondering how are those events actually translating into pipeline or any other metric that we want. And so I think we'd love to hear your findings over the next few months as you guys continue to learn more about how events are really driving demand. Sarah, you guys use intent and account scoring to shift SDRs to that account-based mindset. Can you give us a little bit of feedback into what you guys are using intent for?
Yeah, absolutely. I think listening to all these incredible answers, it's really funny because some people may not think they're using intent, but everyone really is. It's just what type of intent. And it's just now a buzzword that everyone's hearing about, I think. At Sendoso, we moved to an account-based model probably around 2 years ago. Intent was probably the reason we were most successful in moving to an account-based model. When we initially signed out accounts to our SDR team, they're like, where do I start? There's just so many accounts to go after. And intent was the key to really understanding how they can prioritize and what to tackle today. And I think the point of layering intent is super important, and really laying out to your SDR team, there's account level intent, and then you also got to look at person level intent, who is the person within the account downloading the content or visiting the website, trying to identify those key players that you then are likely to convert into a meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the first step in all of this is identifying the profiles. Layer your intent first and or third party to see who's in market, and then even layer your own first intent on top of that to see what people are engaging on your site. But that's only a short piece of the audience, right? So when you guys know that an account is your ICP and they're in market, what do you do to build target audiences of people at those accounts so that you can market and sell to them? And I guess I'll start with Sarah. Sorry.
Yeah, I can definitely kick off on that. I think this is something that's really near and dear to my heart, as I've been at Sendoso for 3 years, so I've been a part of a lot of the persona and the segmentation-based plays. For our SDR team, I think it was really important that we align all of our content to the persona map. So every time we're doing a demand gen play, we pick a persona. So for example, we have a VP of marketing persona that we target. Everything from the direct mail to the follow-up sequence to the call plays, everything is going to be in line with that persona. I think it's great because you're teaching your SDRs how to get like granular information on that person and what they care about, and training them as you go. But it also helps with just alignment between sales and marketing. So really do focus on title-based personas, and then industry-based as well.
Yeah, I think, scanning a lot of databases over the years, I always see job titles, but I don't always see department level persona. And this is really, key to being able to quickly target audiences. Michelle, can you tell us a little bit about how you guys, go ahead and build these audiences to go and, get after a set of accounts or a single account that's in market?
Yeah, I feel like it's important that we are very supportive of our marketing partners, because we are the ones day in and day out. And so I think the takeaway here for sales that are listening, we need to be accountable to keeping them clean as much as we possibly can. I mean, I know that all of us probably would, have a dream to have a clean database, but we know that's just never going to be the case. So work with sales leaders on accountability to update contacts, mark their job title, persona, like what Sarah was talking about, and however you are really wanting to pull contacts into audiences, work with your sales partners to help drive the BDRs, the CSMs, the AEs that are actually on the account in a little bit more close, because that will help and make sure that we have really good return. The only other thing I'll add too is feedback from sales is helpful. So send a list ahead of time. Not all campaigns, definitely not, but larger ones. That'll do two things: help with buy-in, but also help understand reasons why the contact shouldn't have been on the list. Maybe there was wrong data, or maybe they just don't have a good understanding of what the campaign might be.
Yeah, I think I'm just so over that whole term of, salespeople are just lazy. They're never going to update data. If you're on this call and you have a sales team, I think that the emphasis on sales not being lazy and making sure to keep data up to date, only to benefit them, right? Because we're all coin operated, and data entry, data verification as an end sales user is so important. Kelly, you guys have a unique way of targeting accounts with some technology. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so two main things that come to mind for me is it's really important that sales and marketing is speaking the same language as it comes to segmentation too. So I think it's easy from like an industry or vertical or market segment perspective. It's kind of very clean cut. Where it kind of gets a little kind of off path is when we are talking about the persona. Depending on your buyer group, we have, we're targeting salespeople. And those titles can be all over the place. One title could mean one persona to one person and one persona to another person. So one thing that we've put into our business is kind of standardizing those titles. So we have modeling and annotation services to titles to try to automatically bucket them for them, like where it's a seniority level, a department. So both marketing and sales teams can pull from the same field. We're talking the same language. We're segmenting the exact same way. We're calling it, apples to apples. So that's one big thing is just, whether you have that automation or whether you're doing that motion is just making sure you have those personas very clearly defined throughout all the go-to-market team. So you are building the right audiences, both on the outbound and the inbound side. That's one particular piece. The other thing that we found really successful in our marketing programs too is going back to Sarah and Michelle too is on the sales side, we want to know, who are the people on the front lines that they want to talk to, that they're targeting, making sure we're very aligned with down to not just the account, but the person. We're leveraging Sales Navigator, Save Leads in Sales Navigator. So there's integrations available for us to pull those into our social programs, et cetera, of really aligning down to, who the SDRs are outreaching to. So those are kind of two that come to mind for me that have been really successful from the outreach, marketing, and sales program, and help you align your programs as well.
Yeah, I can't emphasize enough, aligning personas from marketing automation into sales, right? I think you guys all tell, I have a little bit of a marketing background, but more in sales. And a lot of the time I find that marketing segments get stuck in smart campaigns and they never make it to field values in Salesforce. So aligning those roles and those personas is so important, because then if you're a salesperson and you have a tool like LinkedIn Navigator, I mean, they make it so easy to go in there and mine fresh, up-to-date contacts. And I wouldn't actually be able to do my job without Sales Navigator. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Rachel, it seems like you're also using personas, and then you take those personas and map content and other key information that you're going to use to actually test. And so I'd like to hear your unique approach to using personas and how you really fine-tune your audience building.
Yeah, our persona is marketing, right? And that's pretty broad. We heard about senior marketers. That could be anyone from, someone in a demand general all the way up to their CMO. And of course, we're also looking at event producers and event marketing managers. And these are really the people on the ground running the show, but not necessarily the decision maker, right? So a lot of the kind of building audiences around this, we're looking at, company match on paid channels, and how can we go out and find more similar people that are either on these accounts or, have similar characteristics, interests, things like that, and really testing kind of by channel there. But a really interesting thing we've been able to do is align our event roadmap and the content that we're using there to speak to the key personas. And I think we can get into this, at a little more detail in the next question, but really trying to, use the event itself as a way to attract people in the ICP, whether that be, by the invite that you're sending or by the speaker that you're hosting. So that's been a really, really effective way for us to kind of understand what's resonating with who. And as I mentioned before, the folks that are in those conversations tend to be more engaged and have higher intent. So it's been really interesting to see those trends over the last few months.
Yeah, and it's really, again, one of those things I'm going to take it back to sales is, if you're aligning content to personas, it just makes it so much easier for that message to get translated into a supporting message from a sales rep. So I think that's really, really cool. And on a different session, we'll ask you how you keep all of that organized. But what are the most effective channels that you guys are using today to engage these target audiences, right? It's all about the order of operations, ICP, right? And then you got your, your intent, and now your audiences. So how do you activate those audiences? And I think, Michelle, we're going to start with you is, what are some specific campaigns your team has found success with to target audiences?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the conversation we were having earlier about intent. I'll keep it very simple here, but really making sure that we're targeting our message with value, with not an ask to start. What problem does your tool solve and why now? So we've seen success in creating multiple step cadences with our tool, going and understanding what the intent signals were. And then we already have templates in place in our playbook of the type of messaging that we should be sending. And so we really just pull play from there and send it out. I'm sure all of us also get prospecting emails. So I look at them all the time and I look at the messaging, think about what would actually make me respond. And I also share the emails with my teams to talk them through best practices and even things to avoid. So it's ever evolving and there's never, the perfect, but the basic simple thing that I will say, and I think all of you would agree, is sending value add. What problem are you solving? And don't have a lot of asks in there.
Yeah, solution selling is a lot different than, blasting promotional material at somebody for the first time. And I totally agree. Sarah, I love direct mail, and it sounds like you have some direct mail strategies that I'd like to have you dive into and give us some feedback on, what are some of the strategies that really worked in 2020, 2021 when it comes to direct mail?
Yeah, absolutely. I even have one right behind me. The other way, this way. There it is. It's a piñata that they sent me for Cinco de Mayo or something like that. But I love piñatas, so always happy to get something from Sendoso myself. A lot of what we did in 2020 was really trying to blend the digital and like experience. Like we felt that we were really events heavy in 2020, and we really didn't want to miss that in-person and human touch feeling that you get from events. I think most marketers and sales folks love going to events and getting to network with people. One thing that I really liked that we did in 2020 and was really successful, we got really good engagement from, was conference in a box. So for any event that we did, we would send like swag or something in a box to really showcase that, that engagement that you felt in an event when you would check in and get your backpack full of swag or whatever it may be. I really like that one. And it really helps people remember your brand. Like I use this mug every single day. Love it. And it really helps you keep on people's desks. I think the other thing that was really great that we started really leaning into more was this idea of charity choice. 2020 was really difficult for everyone. I think it threw us multiple curveballs. A lot of what we do is that, like for an event, like Show Must Go On was one of ours, we sent everyone an e-gift to allow people to donate, certain keynote speakers, whatever it may be. And we also did a poll so that everyone could chime in and say who they wanted to have Sendoso donate to. I think those are really cool plays that we did, and something that it's not going to end in 2020. We are still doing it in 2021.
That's pretty amazing. I use direct mail all the time, and some of the game plans I use are like a really soft touch mailer, and then maybe a couple of days later after that mailer hits a low touch item like a Rubik's Cube. I like to ask people, are you puzzled by a challenge, right? And then after that, if they start engaging with your content and your emailing and your calling and sales, the meeting maker, maybe it's Amazon, home device or something, but we really love and see a lot of value in direct mail and have seen a lot of success with that as well. Rachel, we're going to move to you and talk about something that is probably on the top of all of our minds right now, as we've haven't been able to go to real events for the last year, or at least physical ones. Digital events, virtual events. How do you use these type of events to really engage audiences?
Yeah, well, fortunately, Welcome has all sorts of cool features that can actually keep you engaged, in the moment. So we just rolled out an awesome interactive polling feature, which is great. We also have, Q&A and live chat and the ability to really replicate that in-person feeling, in the virtual event. But engaging the audiences through the event, to me, is really mostly about the content that you're using as your run of show. And so what we're noticing is there's a really large correlation, obviously, between what people in our ICP want to hear about and what events they will either attend or in fact speak at. And so what we're doing is, thinking through our target accounts and our key buyers and inviting those people to actually be on our events themselves. And so we've noticed a great network effect there too, where, if somebody senior from, say we hosted an event with Intuit last month, and Lionel Morris, the director of creative and brand experiences there. And we noticed, he invited his whole team. The whole team showed up. They were super engaged. So that's like the network effect on the speaking side. But, of course, word of mouth travels in terms of registration too. So really getting the person speaking to the audience to be, a thought leader in the space that the audience members identify with as well has been really key for us. And then, once everybody is there, using the features I mentioned before to really drive the experience and the feeling of being in person, which I'm sure we're all super excited to get back to.
Yeah, that's really cool. I love the idea of inviting, and showcasing your top prospects. There's nothing like making them feel good before you go and ask them anything that you want, and that's a very unique way. Kelly, I'm interested in hearing from you on the sales side. Are there like unique cadences that your team has found most effective? How do you get in touch with these audiences?
Yeah, I think one of the, just listening to everybody talk to, one of the consensus is, we all had to get creative this past year. We had to pivot strategies a lot in the field marketing space, both digitally and in the field marketing space too. So for us, when we're looking at email communication, I mean, digital noise was just such a big thing for the last 12 months or more. And so really getting creative outside of just email communication. So Sarah touched on direct mail. I think introducing additional steps outside of just an email step within our outreach sequences, was something that we really evolved on that strategy. And yeah, the digital direct mail, pivoting to that, we found that super successful as well. So really just introducing those other channels from like an outbound or an inbound follow-up perspective, making sure we diversified outside of just kind of like the direct ask and the email communication, I think was super successful for us. The other thing is kind of evolving what we've been talking about is from, who are the accounts that we want to go after? Who are the people that we want to go after? And then really evolving our field marketing strategy to address that. And so we've developed really high touch playbooks. And the way that we define that is very targeted, very small kind of virtual events, whether it was a book club or a wine night or something like that, just getting really creative with the offers, like we were talking about before, not just the direct ask, but just having the conversation about the industry in general, but really getting targeted and people talking and creating that in-person / networking feel within these high touch playbooks with special offers too. So those are two successful things that we've implemented through our outbound efforts this past year.
That's very cool. I think this is our last question because it goes again from targeting to intent to audiences to engagement. And what happens is that engagement, especially if you're doing multi-channel engagement, starts to drive not just those people back through your inbound channels. We all know, marketing automation is really good at finding email duplicates. But what it also does is it drives all their colleagues back through your inbound channels, because maybe you meet somebody in an event and then they tell an analyst to check out your website. Or, maybe you've been emailing somebody and they say, hey, my manager, I need you to take a look at this. And all of a sudden you have, net new engagements coming back through your inbound channels. And so, what are you guys doing to make sure that inbound leads that are driven from this outbound activity get routed to the right owners or the relationship owners in the CRM as fast as possible? And we'll start with you, Michelle.
Yeah, I think I'll go back to my theme of making sure that we're aligned with our marketing partners. For us, this is going to rely on our BDR leaders. So BDR does live in our sales org today. And so they're meeting on a weekly basis with our marketing partners to talk through where we're at. And then our BDR leaders are leveraging our MA tool to check on leads, if they've been actioned. The tool also is going to tell us a timestamp if we're following our SLAs. And so they're really ensuring that we're actioning. And then the SDRs are actually incentivized by bumped meetings. So meaning the meeting moves into a deeper stage after the first call, idea being that they were doing a lot of the qualifying ahead of time. And then it'll move into the sales leaders to track. So I know I have reporting in our CRM on past due meetings, no shows that I'm enforcing and checking on. And then we're re-adding those contacts back into our cadences if we don't end up running the meeting.
Yeah, I love the SLA between sales and marketing. You got to create the don't be on it dashboard. You know, don't not follow up fast enough and don't follow up not enough times. That's pretty cool. How about you, Kelly?
Yeah, so one of the things that's important for us is making sure that we're processing our inbound leads from demand gen programs to the workflow that whether it's the AE, whether it's our CSM, whether it's the SDR, that we're processing those and sending those over in a way that doesn't take them out of their normal day-to-day workflow. So we're leveraging like the 3 critical tools being marketing automation, CRM, and a sales engagement platform as well. So our sales reps, all 3 CSMs, AEs, and SDRs all operate solely from outreach. And so we have automation and processing in place to process all of our inbound leads directly to an outreach sequence too. So they can follow up right within their normal task load. We do put those as urgent. We kind of monitor like action off of those to align with our SLAs. So just really thinking about what does the daily task load and what does the daily look like for who we're sending that to. And also making sure that we are routing those correctly. So timing and processing when you introduce too much automation versus too little, making sure we're allowing for time for that routing to the right person based on, stage, et cetera. And so holding back a little bit and also making sure we enrich with as much information as we possibly can before we send over to our sales reps as well. So that's what we do today, and we're continuously evolving that. But just making sure and working alongside our sales partners to make sure we continuously improve on that too.
That's very cool. I like the auto to sequence connection there. Sarah, how about you? Do you have any unique methodologies to making sure people that are coming inbound get to the right sales rep or relationship owner?
I would say the big thing for us in getting our router set up correctly was making sure the data was in line. So deduping was a huge thing for us. I think if you ask anyone who's launching ABM or has tried, making sure that you have deduplication against your accounts is really important to make sure it gets to the right person. And then also, in addition to what Kelly said, like enrichment was also super crucial. The thing that I was going to point on, which is I am just remembering this is a strategy we actually learned from the outreach team, is that we also automate all of our MQLs to be added to an MQL sequence. This improves SLAs very well. And in addition to that, it allows you to really report on your MQL performance within a sequencing tool like Outreach.
That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, if you can get everything from the matching, the enrichment, the linking to account, the routing, and then get it into a sequence, you, at least on the email side, you don't have to think about whether the sales reps are actually getting in touch with these people immediately. And then it sounds like, Kelly, I think you mentioned earlier that you can prioritize the MQL new assignments in outreach to make it so that even if you had 100 tasks that you were managing, the new leads would pop up at a priority level, which seems very cool. Rachel, how about you? What are you doing to manage territories and get data to the right people?
Yeah, first I just want to say we're using Outreach too, or my BDR team is, and I love the idea of enrolling those MQLs in a sequence right away. So that's definitely something I'm going to take back after this. But what we're really looking at as a new team is defining processes and setting alignment really early. So we just brought on a revenue operations person. We have a BDR manager. We have sales managers and myself, and we're all meeting pretty regularly to kind of align on, okay, well, if somebody, comes into the system through an event, how do we follow up with these types of leads? And, if it's content, how do we think about that? Really defining our lead scoring programs help with that as well in terms of prioritizing some of the outreach on larger lists and audiences that we receive. But, we are using territories as one kind of parameter to kind of make sure that, nobody is overwhelmed by volume. And so that's how we're looking at that. And we also, are thinking through, as these different leads are coming in through different channels, what should the next step be, and how would we think about, putting them into a new automation process, either through marketing or the BDRs.
Yeah, so you guys make all this sound so easy, but I'm sure there are amazing teams behind you building out all this automation and infrastructure and process flows. And, I think as an audience, we're so lucky to hear coming from you, how to better target, how to build audiences, how to engage those audiences and make sure that relationships are passed to the right users as quickly and efficiently as possible. So thank you all so very much for coming on to the panel today and providing a lot of great information for everyone else to learn from. And now we kind of want to shift gears a little bit to chat and get interactive. And so the first, thing I want to ask everyone in the audience that, we'd love to hear your chats, because God knows I need more TV shows in my life. But what was your favorite binge-worthy TV series during COVID? And while you're answering that, I want to ask if you have any other questions for the panelists that you'd like us to address. Just throw them in the chat box right now, and if you've been doing it earlier, we'll work to address those as well. And again, thank you all for attending, and for the speakers. You guys were amazing, and thought that you brought it really professionally today, and so many good pieces of information that we can pull to and apply in our everyday work. So thank you guys all so much.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.